Welcome along, Football Show. Dion Fanning of The Currency is here in studio. You're very welcome. Good to see you.
Hi Joe, how's it going?
Very well. We have just watched Argentina beat Croatia by 3-0. Very comprehensive in the end. So first half, Croatia started very well, had lots of the ball, and then from, their own corner routines, their own set-piece routines, really, they were sucker punched. First on 34 minutes, Alvarez went through on goal. Penalty was given. Messi struck the penalty brilliantly. It was everything Harry Kane was trying to do.
It was. It really was.
I'm sure even Harry Kane, it may have crossed his mind somewhere watching from afar. And then Alvarez ran through and scored a very memorable second goal. He was both simultaneously in control of the ball, not in control of the ball, like bundling through. And then when the ball did pop up for him, he finished so calmly. And then Alvarez scored the third goal, the decisive goal, which killed the tie on 70 minutes. It will be remembered for Lionel Messi. Just watching the very emotional celebrations there, and naturally cameras are zoomed in tight on Messi's face, and he's singing and he's laughing and he's emoting in a way that in some ways we haven't seen him do for the previous 15 years. He's been a remote figure in that kind of a way. But I said to you, just as I walked in, I'm starting to wonder if there's a bit of destiny about this one all of a sudden.
Yeah, you said that, and I'm not so sure. We'll see what happens tomorrow night, but if France are there, I still fancy France. And I actually fancied Croatia tonight.
I had a sneaking suspicion for Croatia as well. Croatia had nothing in the final third. That was and everybody knew that, but they felt they could overcome it. Yeah.
And I think against an Argentina team that hasn't played as well as they played tonight. Like, this is the first time they really looked like a proper team.
Yes.
I thought Croatia were actually a more complete team than Argentina, and that's why I thought they could do it, even with the lack of forwards.
Yeah.
But they just, like, I think semi-finals are where underdog romances go to die, because like they just looked spent. Extra time, 2 games at extra time and penalties, and once Argentina got the second goal, it just looked over for them.
It did. So Argentina started against Saudi Arabia. They lost that opening game. Perhaps they weren't as bad there as the scoreline reflected. They scored at least 2 offside goals, which were offside by the smallest of margins, but they lost nonetheless. And then there was the Mexico game, and I think you were in reviewing the Sunday papers the next morning. And that was truly the most cynical, awful
I said
half.
I loved it.
Yes, you did. That was an abomination of a game. But nonetheless, they won that 2-0. And then they beat Poland in the final group game, which they had to get through. And that was a Poland side that didn't throw a punch at anybody. So it was hard to read too much into it. They then beat Australia 2-1. Again, that was more about moments as opposed to anything as complete as this evening. And then the Netherlands game had its own ferocious quality. But they gave up a 2-goal lead there and looked vulnerable there. And again, you looked at Croatia as almost being a more road-tested team, or a more equal, a team with more equilibrium than just a Messi team.
I think like obviously the Argentina team has evolved throughout the campaign as well, and like Alvarez has come in, who wasn't there at the beginning. But I think the thing, and this is why, what you're saying, I agree with you. What you're saying about Croatia, what I felt about Argentina was like Messi has evolved too, and is in a way he's becoming more and more prominent. And even against the Netherlands, you're looking at going, if only, is there anyone else there who can help him?
Yeah.
Because he's doing these incredible things, and he's doing, and today he it's ridiculous to say he peaked because of what Messi's done, but in this tournament, he reached another level again.
He looks inspired, doesn't he?
Yeah, and like for the third goal, it was insane.
Yeah,
absolutely insane. But there were other players today as well. McAllister was excellent. Alvarez obviously got the goals.
There was an energy about them. Intensity, and like a speed, and primarily an intensity that Croatia really couldn't live with. And I hadn't regarded Argentina as this wonderfully intense team until tonight.
No, but then it does look more like the team. I think the Saudi Arabia defeat meant everybody just dismissed Argentina really as it's like, oh, hold on a second, this 36 game unbeaten run, that must be like what clans were they playing in those matches? Like it was suddenly that was dismissed, and I think, and as you say, because there was never any, the performances they were always bitty.
Yes, never complete.
No.
Tonight was a pretty complete performance, albeit Croatia had a lot of the ball, but rarely.
Croatia had a lot of the ball, yeah, they did. But then in the first half an hour, they had a lot of the ball, but they weren't really getting anywhere. And I think Argentina were quite happy with it and quite happy to let them have it. And the way Messi plays now, just getting on the ball, okay, and when he just is, it's so efficient. Like it's so incredibly efficient. Like everyone, the walking is kind of a cliche at this stage. But it's just maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
Because it's just you're watching genius kind of with like just gone pared down to its essence, and he just does it. And there's those moments, and he did it against the Netherlands as well. Just those passes, they're extraordinary. And there is no player. I don't care what there has never been a player where you start laughing the way you start laughing with Messi. Like the third goal, you watch the replays of it again, and you start off on the touchline at the halfway line, and
we're getting the amateur angles increasingly on Twitter now as well.
Yeah.
They're starting to emerge, and you get different viewpoints.
I know,
from
and you're just it's just that intake of breath or laughter or whatever it is. It's extraordinary.
And that was against Josko Garvajal, the 20-year-old, who's probably the young player of the tournament and arguably the defender of the tournament. Strong, fast, 15 years younger, and still he just managed to turn him one way, turn him another way, and that shoulder drop with his back to goal. I think like there are players who can do what Messi did from the halfway line to the point in the box, but I think most players, when they've got their back to goal and defender is goal side and they've been stood up, I think most players check back out and recycle possession. And just to do that and to have that agility and the genius has always been there, but to still be able to turn like that and move like that at his age is really quite something.
Well, yeah, there's players who can do that to that point, primarily because they have physical advantages over the players that they're up against.
Yeah.
Like what was kind of humiliating for Guardiola was that he's got all the physical advantages over somebody who's 15 years older than him.
He sort of kept pace with Messi all the way into the box, but still couldn't dispossess him.
And just didn't know what was going to happen. And he's just wrong-footed kind of mentally from the start, and then that final flourish along the end line.
That turn with his back to him is just extraordinary. I mean, it really is. And then the finish, Pearl Alvarez, I mean, he deserves more mention because he's having an extraordinary tournament. Ironically, it's the World Cup as opposed to signing for Man City and scoring goals for Man City as Haaland's supporting act. It's been Messi's supporting act where he's made a name for himself. Signed for just 14 million.
Yeah.
So that's turning out to be very good business, I would think. The opening goal, the penalty, you saw it as a penalty, did you?
Yeah, just about. I think so. I can see why you might think it wasn't a penalty too, because the keeper's come out to make a save. The ball's gone by him, and Alvarez has run into him. So, is it? I'm not sure what the keeper is supposed to do in that situation.
Yeah.
But again, if you say if it was a defender and you ran past them and you ran into them, it would probably be a foul. So. But I'm not sure. I'm not like I could see a reason why it wasn't. But the referee was, so he didn't have any doubt. He was so straight in, and no, I think it probably was a penalty.
Yeah, on balance, I was watching initially on mute in here, and I akin to what you said, I thought, well, keeper's definitely allowed to come out. In fact, has to come out to a point, and then is certainly allowed to hold his ground.
Yeah.
And then he's run into, but there was maybe just the slightest hint of lifting a right knee, perhaps to try and stop the ball and make himself bigger, but maybe to stop Alvarez running around him. I thought it was a tight decision. It certainly wasn't stonewall penalty, but it was given, and then that was an incredible penalty on Messi's part for a man who's prone to missing a penalty.
Yeah, no, it was a great penalty, as you say. It was actually, like, it was as if he said, look, Harry Kane, this is what you're meant to do with those kind of penalties. I see Harry Kane has reached a really terrible point where somebody referred to, I think, Dara O'Brien, the housing minister, as the Harry Kane of politics in the Dáil tonight. Wow. That really awful moment when politicians start shoehorning
I think
World Cup references in.
A politician was described as Harry Maguire-esque in advance of the tournament elsewhere. So now one Harry has replaced another clearly in politics as the default punchbag. The second goal then, again, Croatia will have their regrets because it came from their own corner and Alvarez got possession maybe just past halfway. There was a degree of bundling his way through and a ricochet here and almost a knowing I'm kneeing it back off another player. Luis Suarez was quite good at doing that at times. He'd bundle his way through, and so it was messy and there was a degree of luck, but there was also a fair amount of intent on Alvarez's part, and then the composure was in the finish. So we're calling it a very good goal, I think.
Well, yeah, although I think again it did also underline how much Croatia were struggling tonight.
Yeah.
Because they made a mess of the corner. Yeah. The break happens. The defence, like you talked about Guardiola, but like everyone's talked about how Lovren has raised his game because of defence, the way it's been working together. But actually it looked like it was reversed tonight, that everyone had gone down to kind of Lovren's level. Yeah. And it was actually, I think, probably a messy assist for this goal as well, if you don't count all the Croatia players who touched it. But he passed it to Alvarez. Alvarez took the pass in his own half, so it was still. But he did. It was a great goal because he kind of persisted.
Yes.
And kept going, and the deflections kept coming back to him.
And he kept reacting to them. You have to react to these deflections. Yeah, there is a skill in that.
And the finish was lovely. So no, it was an extraordinary goal, and it was kind of comic in its own way too. But it was a good goal.
It's been commented upon all tournament, but it certainly felt like a very real factor this evening, and that is the fact that Argentina are playing all these games at home. I mean, the support they've taken is extraordinary. I mean, it really will be quite something. World Cup final, they're going to have 60-70% of the stadium again.
It would be good if Morocco were with them then.
Have they taken a big support base? They have. Okay.
So that would be interesting. But it won't be. Semi-finals are where romance goes to die.
Yes, okay. So at this point you're feeling France to get it done tomorrow and France to get it done on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, despite what we saw from Argentina today, I think on the basis that France are definitely a proper team, I think they'll beat Argentina. I think they've got too much. They're not Croatia. They've got forwards. They've got Mbappe. They can do. They can create things, and I do feel they'll have too much for Argentina.
Well, we'll see. That's tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We'll talk about that in due course. Marcela Mora-Iorahu hopefully is going to join us from the stadium in due course. We're going to take a very short break. Dion is staying with us. There's obviously a whole couple of days to talk about, which we'll do in just one sec. So short break. Dion Fanning staying with us. We'll hopefully check in with Marcela as well on extraordinary evening for Lionel Messi. And the football show, as ever, is brought to you with thanks to Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Back in 1 minute.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. The Pat Kenny Show.
Your question, why did I take the job? I mean, who wouldn't take the job? It's the loveliest company. It's really good fun. Paul Hollywood is a pleasure to work with. He's funny and he teases me a lot, but I like that. And, you know, it's a great job. Of course I said yes.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With Aviva Insurance.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on News Talk.
Galvin Tullamore, making Christmas special since 1949. Galvin Tullamore. Your partner's unique, romantic, exceptional. So for Christmas, get your special someone a voucher for a relaxing spa break at Monart. It's also unique, romantic, exceptional. And because Monart has been voted one of the very best spas in the world, you can relax too. Visit monart.ie. Something special for your someone special.
If something's free, why would you turn it down? I mean, a free haircut from a 5-year-old. Oh, no. Or a free sample of onion paste. Oh. Well then, how about a free tour of your neighbour's new shed? Oh, sounds, well... OK, look, they were bad examples. But how about a free eye test and free glasses from the €69 range of Specsavers with your PRSI? Well, that sounds like something to smile about.
Book an appointment or find out more at specsavers.ie.
At the Guinness Storehouse, we bring the best ingredients together. This Christmas, we welcome you behind the snow-capped Guinness gates. Tickets include live entertainment, an immersive Guinness installation, and Christmas tree created by award-winning Irish artist Griff. With incredible views from the Gravity Bar, celebrate Christmas with the most important ingredients of all, your friends and your family. Book your tickets online today. Terms and conditions apply. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
Make the most wonderful time of the year even more amazing with Virgin Media. Get a €200 one-for-all gift voucher when you switch to ultra-fast, reliable 500 meg broadband for just €45 a month for 12 months. But hurry, this amazing Christmas offer must end on December 21st. Switch online at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media. Bring on amazing.
T's and C's apply. See virginmedia.ie. Online offer only. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. 500 meg broadband, €45 a month for 12 months. €70 thereafter. Ends December 21st, 2022.
Hi, Teresa Mannion here with a road safety alert for bad weather. Black ice is one of winter's biggest hazards and is hard to see. Watch out for sheltered or shaded areas on the road, under trees and near high walls. Visit rsa.ie from the Road Safety Authority.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get more of the sports you love on Sports Extra with BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
You're welcome back. Joe Molloy here, Dion Fanning alongside me as we reflect on vintage Messi for Argentina against Croatia. 3-0 winners, they're through to the final. We'll chat with Marcela Mora-Uribe. She was at the stadium in just a couple of minutes. She's getting set up. What are we to say of the last few days? Because they've been eventful. We've had Brazil crash out, Croatia obviously through and now out themselves. We've had Morocco do their thing, and then we had England against France, which was all kinds of interesting. The general sense, I would think 99% sense in the English media is Southgate should stay. He's definitely toing and froing on that. It was interesting, Kenny Cunningham was in last night, for instance, and he was saying, look, if England want to take the next step, Foden should have been in that number 10/number 8 position, whichever you want, but it should have been Foden in there and Henderson out, Foden, Bellingham, Rice. That more attacking verve would have got the job done against France, and Southgate's inclination is always to go for a more defensive point of view. So he's not without criticism, but I don't know what your sense is of Southgate.
In what sense?
Do you think he's justifiably the manager to take them into the Euros in 18 months' time, that he's done a good enough job, that he's shown enough as England manager, or is there a degree of they keep falling short for similar reasons?
I think they're falling short for for the same reasons. I get why people are backing him. I think they want to be looking long term. They feel that this is the right thing to be doing, and I'm talking about the media as well as everybody else now. They feel that's the way to do it. But I think it also, there's a kind of, it's possible that I'm sort of detecting this kind of strange muddle now about what they really want to do. So there's this sort of insistence that the manager has to be English, which is fine, and I kind of get it. I think that Jamie Carragher wrote this article about this in the Telegraph, and saying, and I get that argument. I think it's a valid argument that it's international football. It should be, the best, the English centre forward versus the French centre forward, English manager versus French manager, and so on.
Well, there's no point playing by those rules unless the rest of the world is abiding.
No, but they do kind of play with it. Like the big countries, no country's ever won a World Cup with a foreign manager, so it's played by those rules. Effective, like you know, it is de facto rules.
Richard Keys said this was borderline racist.
He did say that, but I was going to bring Richard Keys into it later.
Well, inevitably.
You know. He did say that. But I think England, but then at the same time, what England is really kind of eager to do is to promote their pathway as well, their managerial pathway, the St. George's Park project, which kind of was meant to be, because they don't have the academy element that Clairefontaine have, where they train the players there. The academies, the creation of the players in the England squad have been taken care of by the Premier League clubs and their academies, which were revamped around the same time as they opened St. George's Park. So St. George's Park was going to be what Howard Wilkinson called this, you know, Oxbridge education for coaches. So this should be, if that's what's happening, this should be producing the next coach.
Yeah.
But they don't have anyone lined up for that. They don't. So, like, Gareth Southgate seems to be the beginning and end of the St. George's Park project, because he only came in because Sam Allardyce got caught in a sting.
Yeah.
He was part of the fabric of the FA. Southgate was. He came in on an interim basis and has done a great job. But now, when he's gone, it's like, well, hold on a second, we don't have any plan. So, like, the obvious, like, this is where they get into a kind of a strange position. Like, Lee Carsley is kind of, you know, the obvious person if you're actually committing to that pathway. Not Eddie Howe or Graham Potter, really, but the person actually who's been part of that system.
Yeah.
But they can't give it to Lee Carsley, because he's Irish.
Nor does he have the profile.
No, but that shouldn't really be the.
Yeah, but come back into the real world.
I know, but yeah, but
he doesn't have the body of work either.
Look, Southgate had no body of work. Southgate was a really mediocre manager who had just got into the FAI or the FA bureaucracy, and then came out, you know, and just was spat out when just suddenly was the guy sitting in the seat when the music stopped and Sam Allardyce was there with a pint of wine in front of him, saying things which nobody can even remember what he said. It was such a ridiculous, you know, scandal. Like, he said nothing and he was gone.
Yeah.
But it worked out well for English football. But they don't seem to have created any strategy beyond that, which is the strange thing, which is why Southgate seems to have quite a few advantages, although it does seem to be edging too that he will decide to go.
Yeah, I think he feels he's done. I think he feels tired.
But I feel the one thing I would say about a big name, I don't think they should go. I don't think it works for them, and it didn't work with Capello, it didn't work with Sven. But the one thing it kind of does is it sort of focuses a team on the now. And, like, I think it's kind of extraordinary that England are talking about the future again. Like, this is a World Cup quarter-final. People talk about how well they played. It was a World Cup quarter-final and they lost it. Like, you might as well say Senegal played very well in the game for half an hour in the last 16 match against England. It doesn't matter. They got knocked out and England won, and they're like, that is to their credit. But they lost in the quarter-final. It doesn't really matter how well you play at that stage. That's your baseline. And I think in some ways, the one advantage of having a manager who you're paying, who's a big name, and you're paying $6 million a year to, it's like, well, you've got to win.
Yeah. I find that I've listened to a lot of their conversations over the last 24 hours on UK radio and podcast, this notion of, do you think we should go English or foreign? As if, but as if they're two distinct styles. As if, like, Jose Mourinho and Marcelo Bielsa would bring the same things, like English or foreign. It's just almost like I've never heard such stupid conversations as genuinely like low bar maybe, but like in the last 24 hours, this English or foreign conversation. What does that mean? What's an English manager versus a foreign manager in terms of anything?
It doesn't mean anything. But you see, it also doesn't mean what. This is the thing. I think there is an argument we're saying, should we be going for a coach schooled through our system?
Yeah.
Or should we be going for somebody, whether it's Graham Potter or Pochettino or Eddie Howe, who isn't schooled through our system? That should be their question.
I agree. Park that for 1 second. I'm told Marcella Mora Irahu joins us on the line. You're at the stadium. You've been very good by making time for us. Are you there?
I am here. I'm just sitting outside a press conference room and a mixed zone room. So
if you need to run,
anything really exciting happens, I might just go,
That is no problem.
Messi! Foreigners. I'm chasing after them.
So, well, that was pretty extraordinary this evening. Argentina's best performance of the tournament by some distance, I think it's fair to say, Marcella?
Absolutely. And I think Messi's really improving game by game, and that's a really kind of wonderful thing to see, because you keep thinking, will he, has he got it in him? So really beautiful contrast of him at his bestest and the young emerging stars, Julian Alvarez, sealing our fate as a nation and so on. So really, really exciting and great to be here. And I think Croatia started looking like they might be a bit of a menace, but it just got easier and easier and better. So, yes, I mean, I'm getting, as I speak, I get distracted because messages are pouring in from back home. People saying, are we taking to the streets? Others are urging caution, not yet. But I think it is a celebratory achievement. It's worth celebrating getting to the final, and it really is fantastic for Messi. And you could see his sorry, this is dropping. I think something's happening here and I may have to go. You could see his relief almost, I think his expression at the end of that game was satisfaction. And I think that's probably what most fans are feeling after a really intense ride to get here. Satisfied.
Yeah. It looks like the entire stadium every time Argentina play is full of Argentinians.
Well, there's certainly been a few charters arriving these last couple of days on super offers and promotions, and there's been clubs and the Football Association gathering fans. So there's more tonight. I don't know if the streets of Doha are also full of fans who are not necessarily all from Argentina, but who support Argentina. A lot of local support. But yeah, there was a big move to get more tickets. As countries progress through the World Cup, the remaining participants get more ticket allocations. So there's been a lot of WhatsApp action around the Argentinians in Doha, trying to find where the tickets are, what the lists are, how you get on them, and so on.
You mentioned that look of satisfaction on Messi's face, which was very apparent as he celebrated at full time. Lionel Scaloni, the manager, looked very emotional. Marcella, has he been? Yeah, I can't imagine. Actually, it must be extraordinary for him. Have you seen him that emotional before?
Yes. The pinnacle of emotion was when Pablo Aimar really kind of burst into tears in the group stages when Argentina got through, and Scaloni called for everyone to calm down, but he had bit his lip and wept, hugging his son, who he brought down from the seats to the bench and so on. So yes, this is a very emotional squad and group of men, so I think well deserved. He didn't look uncontrolled or meltdown or convulsing. He looked genuinely like, wow, what have we done? And I think probably millions of people are feeling that with him.
Marcella, that emotion you talked about, people have said that Argentina can't kind of run on that emotion from match to match, the kind of, the highs and the lows, but it does actually seem to be driving them forward and giving them energy.
For sure, and they clearly can. I think there was something quite interesting going on in the beginning of that game, where Croatia seemed to be doing what Argentina usually do, controlling the ball, passing the ball, enjoying the ball, wanting it, and Argentina seemed to be running around a little bit like surprised, but it came through. And I think it's a mixture of emotion and passion and that organic style of play. Valdano has been defending a lot in his writings in El País over the last couple of weeks, and people are generally, there's some sort of conversation going on about whether emotion alone can do it, or whether the more tactical kind of, prepared. But today, I think also Argentina showed that they did prepare for this, and they were able. I was always scared about Argentina's defense and whether, they would relax into complacency, and it just didn't happen. And I think that's amazing. And there is quite a lot of study into that. But the point is now they've reached the final, and so now this is as much as anybody can hope to do in a World Cup, is play every game, and whatever happens next, I think they have delivered that joy and satisfaction that people were expecting. And ultimately, we all go back to normal life next week, and that's that. No one's life is going to change except for maybe Julian Alvarez's.
Marcella, just because I'm conscious you're being very good for us here. Yeah. So one last quick question. This amazing photo of the Argentinian players screaming at the Dutch players at the finale of that penalty shootout. In Argentina, is this a cause of debate? Like, do we want our boys behaving this way? Or is this universally loved?
Course. No. And someone wrote the vulgar side took over, and they've been absolutely vilified. There's a massive, of course, people are split about whether it's right or wrong to do that.
Right.
But I think every single thing that happens on a football pitch can become an issue of debate everywhere in the world, and that's ultimately what's so compelling about this game, that we're not really that different, any of us, are we? Especially not in our approach to football. There might be minor differences of attitude or code or etiquette, but every issue is divisive. Was it a penalty? Wasn't it a penalty? Should that be red carded? Should it not have been red carded? Was it right? Was it wrong? Did Van Gaal and the Dutch players provoke? Did Paredes kick it to the bench? It might be debated for years to come. I think we're at a different point now in this tournament, so there's a lot of epilogues to be written once it's done. But in this kind of step-by-step moment, we are at the final, at the eve of the final.
Amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for making time for us. We'll let you go because I know you're juggling a few things there.
Yeah, well, I did. Yes, cheers. Thank you.
Bye. Marcella Mori, you're out there at the stadium, I think somewhere running between one press conference and one mix zone. So thanks again to her. Interesting, it was debated in Argentina. I thought there'd just be a sense of, there are boys, look at them doing their thing. We're so proud.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. I also think when it comes to World Cups, like, this is something I remember being in Brazil for the World Cup, actually being pointed out to me that, like, a lot of people supporting Brazil at the World Cup and don't have any interest in football.
They're the ones people gravitate towards.
Yeah, like everywhere else.
Yeah.
That there's still a huge amount of people when World Cups come around that, which is fine.
Yeah.
But they join in, even though you always expect Brazil, everyone must be always talking about football. But no, there's obviously, and I think maybe when the whole country is watching something like this, there are going to be people who take a different view. I think they were provoked. I think everyone should just get off their backs.
Well, as Marcella said, it feels like a long time ago now. Anyway, I was just curious culturally to see how it was greeted. So we were just before she joined us there talking about English or foreign, and they just that's where the debate is. But genuinely, I think the Southgate's done a really, really good job, and I think the fact that it's only 18 months away as opposed to a full 2-year cycle might tempt him. Would you not make England under Southgate, as they currently are, as we guess they would be in 18 months, pretty damn close to favourites along with France for the Euros?
Yeah, but they should be. They should be close to being favourites,
regardless of manager.
Now,
yeah.
Well, no, not regardless of manager. But I just think there's a bit of a danger in just constantly. And we have this to a degree in Ireland, but I think it's necessary. But there's a danger in always looking like this. Like 7 of the team that were on the pitch on Saturday were at the World Cup. Were like in the first 11 in 2018. So they've as much work to do in replacing the players who are like Harry Kane, like Harry Maguire. They've players they've got to replace as much as they've got to look forward to the players who they have now kind of reaching their peak.
See, I felt at the weekend they played it very, very well. It was a perfectly acceptable effort, and I don't mean acceptable as some kind of euphemism. I mean, like, it was a very acceptable effort, and that game could have gone either way. And it's just one of those things. I mean, I hate to say it is what it is, but sometimes I don't think they left it behind. Really.
I'm not saying this in a way that means Southgate. I think Southgate should go, but I actually think when it's there, when you've played well and you should have won it. Is that not more of a reason to be frustrated?
Yes, I mean it's more of a killer for them.
Yeah. So and it's more of it's more of an opportunity lost.
Big time, because every other previous tournament we've watched England, with the exception of the Euros last year, they have been valiant losers but deserving losers. And outclassed quite often.
Yeah.
Whereas that wasn't the case here. They managed to pitch up at a level that. The 2 best teams in the tournament for me were France and England, and they pitched up at a level and they came up short. And it's more of a sickener, but that's less of a reason for a clear out or we need to reevaluate the manager or we need to think over.
But only if you're kind of judging it by the old sort of terms of reference, that if like it's, if they'd lost 3-0 or there's been some kind of humiliation, and it's, you can put some mock-up of Southgate on the back page.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I think in terms of where they're going, I think this was this is a real missed opportunity. Real missed opportunity. And I think that's kind of seems to have not been reflected in the kind of, we played very well and it could have gone either way, and it's just a missed penalty. Like, England had a huge amount of possession in the second half and didn't really create enough with it.
Yeah, that's the biggest criticism. There isn't a gilt-edged chance that haunts anyone because they didn't create one.
No, and that's
the biggest criticism.
And when you look at the players that they have, and even the player, like I've been kind of astonished, and I think he's brilliant, and I think he's everything that people get excited about. But it's quite instructive. People talking about how good Bellingham was against France, and I watched the game again. And I've heard some people who watched the game again and said, yes, he was brilliant. I watched the game again, and it's like, he wasn't at this game. Like he's getting huge credit for his kind of his sort of pastoral care, which is great. Like, he had a word with Harry Kane, and he was around the referee, but he didn't close down quickly enough on the goal. Yeah, and he just wasn't there, and that's fine. He's young, he's fine. He's a brilliant player, but it's instructive that doesn't even seem to, like, there doesn't seem to register.
Yeah,
either.
No, I agree with you on that. I think if Bellingham was 26 and put in that performance against France, nobody would be saying he was great.
No.
Like, I thought Rice was more to the fore.
Yeah, Rice was brilliant.
In some ways, you watch Rice against lesser teams and you think, there's more in this guy. He's not doing very much. But then when you pitch him in at that level, that most elite level against France, his physicality and his presence is so valuable.
Yeah, and I think his talents are better suited to kind of just breaking
football.
Up, and breaking up
football, absolutely.
Breaking up play,
which the higher up you go is more valuable commodity.
And he really did that. And and again, if you go back and look at the Senegal game, Rice couldn't get into it at all.
He's not made for the Senegal game.
No, he's not. But for the first half hour, none of the England midfield were doing anything.
They've had a habit of starting very badly, actually. Quite a few of the games.
But I agree with you. Rice was far more prominent in that game than in the France game than Bellingham.
Curious to see. I mean, Harry Kane in 4 years' time?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, no.
Unlikely.
Yeah, pretty unlikely.
Although Messi and...
Yeah, but
it's different.
Like Kane, I just don't see it with Kane's. Like he's slow in a different way, even as he drops deeper and he does all that element of his game that he's keen to promote.
And he's good at.
He is good at it, and he's actually very important for England at it too. It's an important element for England when he drops deep. He actually gets things functioning in a way that. And again, going back to Senegal, that was when things started to change, when he came deeper and got the ball.
Yeah.
But it's hard to see it in 4 years, which again is why you can't keep... Like, I remember... Okay, and I'm not comparing Gareth Southgate to Roy Hodgson, but I remember England getting knocked out of the group stages in 2014.
Well, that was a bizarre one, the way they pitched that 2014 World Cup. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it was all like, I'm very confident about the future.
Yes. It led to Iceland in 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, look, that was nonsense. That 2014.
But it was again. But it was. See, there was.
This is different.
But there was a mind. There was a shift in the mindset taking place then. That kind of meant, right, we think long term, and it's the right thing to do, because look at Southgate's record compared to the record of every England manager since Alf Ramsey. Like, he has brought a bit of calmness and some belief in a project. But as I said earlier, that can't go with him. Like, if there is something, the FA seems to be caught by surprise by the idea that he might be leaving, because they don't have. They aren't, like, there's a reason why the debate has turned into English or foreign, because there isn't
English.
There isn't just somebody. Well, here's your, like.
But does any country develop a manager like that just waits in the wings for his chance to take over an international
Germany
team?
did it. Hasn't worked out that well, but
yeah. Before clock really comes against us, what of Brazil then and their exit to Croatia, and Neymar's international career probably over, and Ronaldo as well, and Portugal's exit? But Brazil, first of all, there was a degree of rejoice I saw on Twitter. People just feel Brazil are a touch too fond of themselves.
Well, the backlash to the dancing.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's always a bit of maybe it's not so much today, because I don't know if people feel it, but some of us will always have a kind of historical kind of sadness when Brazil go out. You want Brazil to go deep into a tournament, it's like it's getting a lot. It's a long time now. It's going to be a long time since they've won a World Cup.
Yeah. They've equalled their longest run now, 70 to 94, and now 02 to 2026.
And I actually thought, and I was kind of like, they blew it, like they really blew it, because the other thing is, like, that Neymar goal,
sublime.
Like one of the goals of the tournament.
Saying to the guys earlier, like Neymar is somebody I just can't warm to, or I think he's an unfulfilled talent, but that moment did make me think for a moment, well, if he's another moment or two like that and Brazil win the World Cup, you have to re-examine Neymar's career a little bit.
Yeah, although he'd done absolutely nothing until then.
Yeah, not a huge amount, but it was a proper moment, because that was a stubborn Croatian defence trying to break down.
No, it was a brilliant goal, and then they just blew it, like they really did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably the end for, like, it is probably the end for, like, I also do think with Neymar, he doesn't look, and it's not like in the Messi way, he doesn't look kind of really sharp.
He's not.
And, like, he doesn't look fit, and he doesn't.
Like, even that.
And he doesn't look athletic.
He's not. But, like, he's a shocking professional, and almost by his own admission in that documentary.
Yeah.
To the point where when he played some of his best football, it was straight off the pandemic when PSG got to the Champions League final. And it was honestly because all the nightclubs were closed and everywhere was closed. There was nothing for him to do except he played football with his mates during lockdown and came back fit for the first time in about a decade. And it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, what a shock.
No,
it
is. Well, that's it.
Train harder and get rest and don't go out all the time. I get better at football.
Yeah. No, I think there is that element, and it's it does. The fact that he was still on the field, probably he was there to do that, to score that goal, but again, he isn't Messi. Like, he doesn't merit the kind of special treatment that he gets.
No, it's true. Ronaldo a touch more, obviously, quite a touch more than Neymar, and in that Messi bracket, and so he walked off in tears because he knows it's over too. Been an extraordinary month in his life.
Yeah, really.
It's all really blown up.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him.
Do you?
Yeah, I feel sorry for him because I feel he's totally ill-equipped to deal with this stage of his career.
Yeah.
I'm not going home thinking about poor Ronaldo, but like, when you ask me, do I feel like, or when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I feel a bit sorry for Ronaldo, because he's just been like, the same thing is it's just happened everywhere. And I thought the Portugal, I didn't see that coming.
Santos's, yeah.
I really didn't see that coming. I thought, no, and actually Ramos's performance against Morocco, you thought, well, this is probably why you mightn't see it coming, because he was brilliant against Switzerland, but then it didn't look, it looked like God, Portugal don't have much if they drop Ronaldo, which is what I thought would happen.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it, and then he did it, and that's a huge humiliation.
It's been such an awful way for him to exit the stage.
Yeah, but again, mainly because of his own inability to understand that this is coming.
Sure.
And to recognise that this bulletproof facade and this bulletproof narcissism doesn't really protect you when the other things go.
Yes, I can understand how he couldn't come to that conclusion himself, because maybe that would be to drop the standards he set for himself, but that nobody around him couldn't at any stage in the last 6 months have got through to him to say, look, we now need to reposition how you see yourself. You may have to be super sub, you may have to play the part. And weirdly, I think that would have elevated his legacy if he had somehow transformed into supportive elder statesman, team man. It wouldn't have diminished him to finish like that.
But I think you're really...
I'm asking a lot.
You're asking a lot of the people around Ronaldo. Look at how he responds to the Sky Sports pundits if they criticise him.
It's true.
Look at how Piers Morgan gets his interview.
No, it's true. Do I want to be excommunicated from the Ronaldo entourage?
Ronaldo, the guy who in the entourage, I'll do it, lads.
You say it to him.
Yeah, you tell Ronaldo
Fair
that
enough.
he's going to be a super sub.
We're pretty much out of time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
Dion Fanning from The Currency with us this evening. Football on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.